Hello, grade 8. This is the second lesson of the week where we're looking at inheritance. Hopefully you have reviewed the key terms that you learnt last week. You did a Kahoot at the end of that lesson. So you should be aware of the words recessive, of dominant, homozygous, heterozygous, gene, allele. Okay, so we're going to look at some examples here when you have different parents of plants crossing together, and then at the end of this little lesson, thinking back to the starter you did before last lesson, you're going to be looking at Harry Potter's family and seeing if you can track the inheritance of being a wizard through that. Okay, so we're going to keep looking at flowers. We have a cross between a homozygous red flower and a homozygous yellow flower. So hopefully you remember homozygous means that both of their alleles are the same. Okay, so red is the dominant allele for these flowers. So the alleles for petal colours of red, which is the capital R, okay, the big letter, and then yellow is the lowercase letter because it is recessive. So what we're going to be crossing is one red flower, homozygous, okay, and one yellow flower as well. The genotypes are big R, and small r. There is a third type that could be here. If we had big R, small r, what you should know is that would be heterozygous. Okay, so the genotype would be heterozygous, and the phenotype would also be red, but we're looking at homozygous parents here. So we can cross them together, and we do something called a Punnett square. Okay, so this Punnett square, you can put the individual alleles from each parent on the outside, and then each of these boxes is a 25% chance of what the offspring will be. Okay, so these parents here are from the red flower, okay, and these alleles here are from the red flower, and these alleles are from the yellow flower. Okay, so what is going to happen? Each of the outcomes, okay, if you have this allele from red with this allele from yellow, you end up with this offspring. If this allele from red cross with this allele from yellow, you have this offspring. Okay, in this box we have this allele, the capital R and the small r, and again that capital R and that small r. Okay, so these are the genotypes of the offspring. The phenotypes, though, let's see if you can have a guess at what they would be. Okay, so we now have 4 heterozygous offspring. Okay, what would be the phenotype? What would be the physical characteristic? All right, a bit of a clue here. The possible offspring of a cross between 2 homozygous parents are always heterozygous, and so the dominant characteristic is always expressed in this generation. So in this case, we would see that each flower is red. Okay, so that's the F1 generation. When you have 2 homozygous parents and they breed, then the next generation is the F1 generation. But the next thing to think about is, well, what would happen then if 2 of these plants were bred together? Okay, they're not homozygous, they're heterozygous. So let's have a little look at that. Okay, so we've got 2 heterozygous plants. Phenotype is still red, so you don't know what their genes are just from looking at them. It's just that we know that they've come from 2 homozygous parents, so they must be heterozygous. Okay, so again, we would draw a Punnett square. Okay, we would put the gametes on the outside, so this is from one plant, this is from another. If you were doing this for crosses in humans or in animals, okay, one of these would be the mother and one would be the father. Okay, so they're coming from one set of chromosomes from one parent here, and one parent is over there. Okay, can you pause the video? And I just want you to sketch that Punnett square. Can you fill in those 4 squares? And see if you can guess what the genotype is going to be and the phenotype for all 4 offspring. Okay, hopefully you did that, and you should have got these outcomes. All right, so we have big R, big R, big R, small r, big R, small r, and 2 small r's over here. So then what are the phenotypes? What colour are all of those offspring? We should have red, red, and yellow. Okay, look at the alleles here. We've got homozygous dominant here. Then we've got 2 that are heterozygous. And then we've got 1 that's homozygous recessive. Okay, and that's going to be our yellow flower. Now, your task for today is going to be to do the similar thing about Harry Potter. All right, so instead of looking at flower colour, we're going to look at whether or not somebody is a witch or a wizard or a muggle. Okay, so muggles have got a dominant allele, all right, which would be M. And witches and wizards have got a recessive allele, which would be W. Okay, so the father, James Potter, he is a wizard, so he has WW, small w, small w. Lily Potter, though, okay, she is heterozygous. She is not a witch, okay, but she does have one of the alleles, okay. She's actually a muddle. I've got that wrong, haven't I? Sorry. Muggle. She's actually a muggle, all right, but she does have one allele. Okay, so I want you to have a go at this genetic cross here, okay, and then say which one of these offspring is Harry, okay, if you can say the phenotype of each of those offspring, and then I want you to go through and complete Punnett squares for the following characters, okay. It tells you about the alleles for each one all the way through. Just on this last slide, okay, it's telling you what you can do, so you can construct a Punnett square for each character. You can state the probability of having a wizard or a muggle child for each one. Okay, then a bit of an extension here. What if Hermione had married a muggle? All right, can you construct another Punnett square and state the probability? And then your extension is going to be that Filch was born into a wizarding family, but he has no magical powers. Why could that be? Okay, when you're done, can you make sure that you take a photo of your Punnett squares and they can be uploaded into assignment on Teams? Thank you.